President Biden is traveling to Hiroshima, Japan, to participate in the G7 summit. The president was originally slated to also visit Papua New Guinea and Australia following the international forum, but instead, Mr. Biden will return to Washington to continue with those debt ceiling negotiations. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now from the White House. Hey there, Weijia. So the White House introduced a debt ceiling negotiation team. I'm wondering what more you can tell us about them and their role in these negotiations.
Well, there were always negotiators from the White House. There were always representatives here from the National Economic Council, as well as from the Office of Management and Budget. The difference is that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy wanted the big names. He wanted the top guns inside the room with his staff. And so that is why there are now new people who are going to try to close this deal. As you see on this screen, there are 3 top aides to the president, including the director of OMB and a close counselor to the president, as well as Louisa Terrell, who is in charge of congressional affairs and the point person for all things that have to do with legislation. So McCarthy got what he wanted in that sense, and they have been meeting. They met last night, they met today, and they are trying to get this worked out.
Well, President Biden decided to cancel the second leg of his trip following the G7 summit in Japan. There was a lot of speculation about that yesterday. How significant is that decision for him?
Well, I mean, with regard to the debt ceiling, he made clear last week that if it came down to the wire and if it looked like he had to stay in town, that he would, because he said this is the top priority. But with regard to the actual meetings that he was supposed to have abroad, the Quad meeting was scheduled for Australia, and that is between the leaders of the U.S., Japan, India, and Australia. That meeting is still going to happen at the G7 summit, even though Australia and India are not formally part of the G7, which is the 7 of the world's largest economies. They have been invited to the summit, and they will be able to meet there. But when it comes to visiting Papua New Guinea, one main purpose of that trip was to bolster support of the U.S. in that region as tensions escalate with China. And so moving forward, him not going, which would have been a historic trip, could have political implications. Although, to be clear, the White House says that visit has just been rescheduled, not canceled. So he could visit during another time.
All right. Hey, Weijia, a lot of times there's a lot of tense news coming out of Washington. It's nice to be able to give some roses. Today, the Medal of Valor was handed out by President Biden to 9 individuals. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about this year's recipients.
Yeah, so this is an extensive list of, law enforcement, for the most part, officers who, really went above and beyond duty to, save lives and to make sure that they put duty first. And so it was a very lovely ceremony. He was able to award that to several people in front of other dignitaries, including the Attorney General. And so we saw a lot of family members there. We, of course, saw the recipients. And this is always a happy moment when you can celebrate what these law enforcement officers and others have done for their service.
All right.
Sorry about that. Out of my control.
Always an active day at the White House, Weijia. Thank you.
Sure.